I see it.
The hell is that? Uh-oh. Run for it! Oh no! Yo, what is up guys, this is TyrannixOne here and welcome to another game review. This time I'm reviewing Battlefield Bad Company 2, a first-person shooter developed by DICE and published by EA. This is pretty much the earliest Battlefield game I have played to date as of right now, so of course I'm going to be starting off with this one. Bad Company 2 is set in an alternate universe where the Russians apparently are invading the entire world, ranging from Europe to China to even America. And it seems South America is also on their side too, since they are attacking from the south. And you play a team of like misfits who are on a mission to stop pretty much the Russians from using this kind of ultimate weapon against them that is pretty much like some sort of really destructive EMP type thing that was apparently developed by the Japanese back in World War II. So even though the story is like your usual sort of end of the world, well not end of the world, but sort of like stop these military guys from using this big weapon against us. It's not really the story that makes the campaign a good campaign. It's more or less the characters that make this a good campaign. And because these guys are like misfits, compared to other Battlefield games, the campaign is actually pretty damn solid and pretty enjoyable, considering the characters themselves are actually pretty funny. Despite each of them being like, you know, a sort of a cliche type thing, you know, like you have your veteran guy who's been fighting for ages and just wants to not fight anymore. You have your smart guy with like the glasses and stuff. You're sort of dumb or redneck sort of guy who like jokes around a lot, and then you have like your default kind of dude that you play. Each of these guys are funny. Like the chemistry and the conversations these guys have is really funny, and pretty much makes them likable characters from the get-go. And because compared to other Battlefield games, at least these guys actually try to be likable characters, where the other Battlefield games, after this one, they don't really try anymore to make the characters likable. They just try and make a story for the hell of it. Whereas this one, it does have an enjoyable story. Well, it's not really enjoyable, it's more like sort of the same thing you've probably seen millions of times before. It's just that the characters are the reason for why this campaign is very decent, but there's also other aspects of why the campaign is good too, not just because of the characters, but also probably like the level design and all these other things that I'll explain. Now, for a campaign, this is actually alright for length-wise, as it took me about 7.5 hours on normal difficulty, and that's not too bad, honestly, for a game like this. But I will admit, even on normal difficulty, this game can be quite difficult or challenging in some areas, especially when you're going up against helicopters. Yeah, because helicopters are a pain in the ass to fight in this game. But yeah, for a campaign, it's not too long, but not too short. It's pretty much about the right amount of length for enjoyment. I like the pacing too, like the pacing of the story, like the mission pacing. Like you're not always going to be on the ground, you know, a foot soldier all the damn time. There are vehicular sections and moments where you do sort of like there's in between the whole fighting and stuff like that. They really do plan. The mission pacing is very well done. But the ending, I mean, there isn't a final boss fight. Don't expect to find one here. It pretty much ends with you like getting on a plane and destroying the device. That's pretty much it. I mean, the guy that you're supposed to kill, you pretty much kill him while you're falling in the sky to the ground. I mean, that's pretty badass, but it's not like something you'd be remembering anytime soon. But yeah, I think the campaign was done pretty well, to be honest. I mean, the soundtrack, I mean, it doesn't have the usual Battlefield theme like you usually hear, but I think it was okay for a different variation. But yeah, I think there's the missions themselves aren't as linear as you think. There are some missions where there's actually quite a lot of, you know, space and you can even explore a little bit. I mean, most of the missions are pretty linear, like you usually see in Call of Duty, but it's like a lot of nicks and a lot of places you can go to where you can like sort of look around, and there's a lot more space. And of course, because of the destructive elements that Battlefield usually has, that Call of Duty doesn't have, makes it a lot more, you know, a lot better to experience. Considering, and which adds more to the challenge, because of course, since you're going to be up against vehicles and heavy equipped enemies, it's not going to be easy when it comes to finding cover. So yeah, you need to make sure you also have like the right weapons too for certain situations, because there are some bits where it's like you're going to need to either have a rocket launcher or a sniper rifle or an LMG of sorts. So yeah, I would definitely make sure to keep an eye on the weapons that you use in the game. Yeah, I think the campaign was done particularly well compared to other Battlefield games, because the campaigns in Battlefield are usually the weak aspect of the game, whereas Bad Company 2 has a nice sort of mixture between the campaign and the multiplayer. And I think Bad Company 2, probably to date right now, is probably the best campaign I've played in a Battlefield game. Alright, now let's talk about the mechanics of the game. Now, of course, considering this is a first-person shooter, you're only going to have 2 weapons at a time. So yeah, like I said before, it's best to make sure you have the right weapons for the situations, because there is going to be different types of like enemies to fight, you know, from ground troops to vehicles. The weapons themselves in this game, I'm not so sure. It's kind of weird how specific weapons have specific attachments. Like, assault rifles each one has a grenade launcher, standard, which feels kind of weird to me for some reason, and all the SMGs apparently have suppressors, which just doesn't make much sense when it comes to the attachments and stuff like that with the weapons. And it's like each weapon that had like an attachment of sorts was like a different variation. So there's kind of a lack of weapons in the game, but there isn't at the same time, which is kind of weird. Also, what kind of disappoints me a little bit is that each of the weapons sort of feel a bit samey in their class. You know, like, apart from the sniper rifles, which have like semi-automatic and bolt-action types, there isn't really that much difference between the weapons' performance from what I've noticed. Like most of the assault rifles, SMGs, shotguns, even though there's like the semi-automatic kind of pump action, they mainly perform kind of samey and not much different than you'd expect. It's like you could just pretty much pick up like any assault rifle and you'd be fine. Any sniper rifle, any SMG, or any shotgun, or any LMG, you pretty much would be fine in the game. Another thing that's kind of a bit redundant in this game is melee. I mean, you can do melee in this game, but compared to other games that I've played, I never really used it at all until it's like there's a specific point in the game where you have to melee someone. So, I mean, it's quite cool. I mean, in multiplayer it's useful, but in the campaign it really wasn't, considering range is your best friend in that game, in the campaign. Yeah, I think the weapons could be, I mean, they were fine when using them, they got the job done, but when it came to, like, the variation of how their performance was, there really wasn't much there. You can also drive vehicles and stuff like that, like ranging from tanks, I think jeeps too, I'm not sure. Yes, you can go from like little cars, jeeps, tanks. It's actually fun. This is the thing that Battlefield has over Call of Duty, is the fact that you can go in vehicles, and it's always fun to go in vehicles for myself. And you can also even go in helicopters too. And there's even like little mechanical stuff too, like these RC drones and helicopters and stuff like that, which are also nice as little things to provide support. There's also like sort of gadgets you can use in the game, but they're mainly for the multiplayer, the gadgets. You don't really see them much in the campaign. Plus, the multiplayer seems to have more weapons compared to the campaign as well, which seems to be a bit of a thing that happens in these earlier Battlefield and Call of Duty games, which does sort of piss me off in some cases. And yeah, so, well, at least most of the assault rifles, LMGs, and shotguns were in, well, I'm not sure actually, probably, were in the campaign, but there is like a bit of a separation between the campaign and multiplayer weapons. I think your health can regenerate and stuff like that, but you can't go prone. That's that's the thing in this game. It's like, for some reason you can't go prone, which just doesn't make any sense, which makes it easier for enemies to hit you behind cover. I'm not sure if they did that, so you could like, I feel like they did that for the multiplayer for some reason. Like they got rid of the prone mechanics, so you can't stay behind cover, so a sniper rifle guy can pick you off. I don't know, you just can't go prone in this game, which is sort of a weird mechanic to not have in this game. Also, yeah, you can't clamber over objects either, like you could in probably like in later Battlefield games. You just have to jump. Surprisingly, you can get over objects pretty easily without the clambering mechanic. I feel like the vehicles themselves operate nicely too, when it comes to the viewpoint and like the amount of people you can have inside them, because you can like, it's not just a one-person thing. And you can, I mean, you have to fix them on the outside too if you're an engineer class. But yeah, I think the vehicles, the weapons themselves, it's sort of a mixed basis on how they perform really. The vehicles perform really well. I like the vehicles. And the weapons, it's like, they operate okay, but they just don't seem different in performance. The graphics for this game, for a game that is like 7 years old now, it's actually still going, it still looks pretty good. And considering this is an older version of the Frostbite engine, it's, yeah, I'm still like, this still looks pretty good. It still makes some Call of Duty games look like crap. And like the destructive elements, that's done pretty well too. I really do like the setting of the game too. Like most of the time, South America isn't really a popular place to go to in video games, especially in the modern direction. It's kind of nice to see a game to go there, considering not much really happens in that country, to be honest. So yeah, like the weapons, vehicles, and even the graphics, and the map layout. The map layout is, like I've said before, it's like some maps are more linear and some are a bit more open. Specifically the desert mission. The desert mission, there is actually quite a lot to explore. That's a big wide open area. But a lot of the time the missions are sort of linear based, but there is like apparently collectibles and stuff to find in the missions too. Like considering special weapons and these MCOM stations. I'm not really sure what was the entire point of the MCOM stations, but I found a few of them, but I didn't really take much notice of them. I didn't really bother with them mostly. But yeah, I think the campaign was, and the elements in it, and the mechanics in this game is actually it was done pretty well, but a few things do need to be improved. Some things would have been needed to be improved, but obviously, since this is like 7 years old, of course they've improved them over time. Now, the multiplayer. This is the main strong point of the game, since the Battlefield series concentrates mainly on the multiplayer rather than the campaign. But for Battlefield Bad Company 2, it's one of those that has the mixture of like a good campaign and good multiplayer, because the multiplayer is actually very fun in this game, having played it a bit myself. And despite the lack of game modes, there's only like 4 game modes. There's like there's like Rush, Capture, Squad Deathmatch, and Capture the Flag or something like that. It's like only 4 game modes, so there isn't really all that much, which kind of does suck a little bit, but because of the size of these game modes and like how long they can last, it's kind of a good thing, because Rush can last a good long time, depending on which side you're on and like how well your team is and how good they are at like defense or attacking. Like if you're on the attacking side, the match could be over in probably like 10 or 15 minutes. But if you're on the defending side, you could really make it last for probably a good half an hour or probably 45 minutes if you're that good. But yeah, I really love the Rush game mode. It's like where like one side has to take out specific MCOM stations, and while the other team defends them. And so if the other team loses them, or if the team that defends them loses them, they have to fall back to another position. And I think there is about 3 or 4 positions. So yeah, you can definitely say it can last a long while, especially since the attacking side, I think, starts off with like 75 respawns, and they do gain more if they're able to push the line back. So yeah, the rush game mode can last for a good while depending on the expertise and skill set of your teams. And if both teams are very skilled, then yes, you're gonna have a very long, drawn-out, but very fun battle. So yeah, I really did like the multiplayer of Bad Company 2. Especially the rush game mode. You have specific classes as well: assault, engineer, support, and sniper. Yes. There's not very much you can do with the classes other than them having their own specific weapons and gadgets. You can't customize your character, but they do have their own looks, so you can sort of differentiate them, so you know which class they have. And each class has their own specific weapon. Like assault has the assault rifles, engineer have SMGs, support has LMGs, and sniper or recon has sniper rifles. But each of them do have like their own gadgets which will help them out in battle. Like engineers have a rocket launcher, assault have their grenade launcher, of course. Sniper rifle have like C4 and stuff like that, and support they have med packs. Well, actually no, it's not support, it's medic. But there isn't a support class. The medics are the ones with the LMGs and they heal your like teammates. Support is pretty much someone who would supply ammunition, which is what I got mixed up with. But there is no support class, so you can't really replenish people's ammunition in this game, which does kind of suck. So you're gonna run out of ammunition very quickly, depending on how long you last. I mean, Rush, you're more or less gonna die very quickly. But there is multiple points where I did almost run out of ammunition if I did run out at all. And so yeah, it would have been a bit difficult, like trying to keep your ammunition supplied nicely, especially if you're defending, which is always going to be a difficult thing to do. There is obviously also vehicles scattered around in these maps in the game of play, which obviously makes it a bit more fun and a bit more militaristic-like. I thought the maps themselves were done particularly well too. I think it's a bit difficult. It's a bit difficult sometimes to accurately aim at someone. Sometimes, well, especially close range. But yeah, I think the multiplayer was done pretty damn good in Bad Company 2. And yeah, the classes, yeah, there's obviously needs to have more stuff in it. But of course, this is like a game that's 7 years old now. So there isn't going to be as much as you think. But it was still fun. I still enjoyed it, and it didn't seem stupid as well, like the way people played. It's not as stupid as you think, the way people play. Unlike Call of Duty, which has its own, like, you know, annoyances and stuff like this actually seemed like a fair game. There doesn't seem to be a way where you can, like, sort of, you know, screw someone over or something like that. This game, the multiplayer, the way it performs, actually feels pretty good. So yeah, overall I think Bad Company 2 had a nice, decent campaign, good multiplayer. It does have a few flaws here and there, but obviously they would be, like, you know, sort of taken care of in later installments. And so yeah, I really did enjoy Battlefield Bad Company 2. And so I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. So, that is my review of Battlefield Bad Company 2, a game that still shows, even for its age, that it's still very fun to play, and can even compete against even some Call of Duty games at this point in time. And of course, this was when DICE and EA were actually decent companies, until the fallout would happen a few years later. But yeah, Battlefield Bad Company 2 was a very well done game with a decent campaign and good multiplayer. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Leave a like down below, subscribe, comment on what you think is right or wrong with the game, comment on what other games you think I could do, and I shall see you guys in the next random video.